Yeah, I always love coming here. It's always been a pretty good track for us in the past. It's always a great crowd. It's a track that I really enjoy racing at. So it's one or I guess twice a year now. I really look forward to coming back here.
All right, we'll take questions now from Matt. If you have one, we'll start right over here with Dave Rodman.
Hey, Matt, Dave Rodman with NASCAR.com. Could you address your obvious affinity for this racetrack and how well the Roush Fenway organization has done here, and how you feel like the 1.5 2-mile program is for your team, for the organization here in 2012?
Yeah, I've always really liked the racetrack. Sometimes, you like some tracks more than others, or run better at some tracks more than others, and you don't always know why. So I don't really know why, but it's always been a pretty good track for us in the past. We've had a lot of good runs here and a lot of good finishes. So whenever you come back to a track you've had success at, I guess you probably always look forward to coming back to it, maybe a little bit more. As far as 1.5 mile tracks, I don't know. We've really only been to Vegas, and I thought we performed really well there. That track's a lot different than this track, but I thought we ran really good. We were a contender right till the end when I wrecked it, and then California we seemed to struggle a little bit as a group. So until you get a little deeper in the season, I'm not really sure, but obviously the bulk of the schedule is the 1 to 2 mile tracks, and you got to be good at them if you're going to be competitive. I don't know if everybody's getting the hand gestures, but they want you to turn me up. Whoever's controlling the volume.
Yep.
Seeing a lot of this, that means turn me up, I think.
No, that means
I can't yell any louder.
That means I like you.
Oh, that's what it means?
Thumbs up, Matt.
Yeah. All right, that's better.
Yeah. Next question for Matt. Who's got one? Dave's got another one. Go ahead.
I probably forgot to answer the third part of it. Did I answer
No,
it
you
all?
you covered it.
All right.
You went back to Daytona this week. How different was the experience celebrating that victory now versus the day after the event?
Yeah, it was a little different. I mean, it's the race got extended a long time, so I guess we're extending all this stuff too, which is fun. So it was really neat to see the car. I haven't seen the car since it left Victory Lane, so it's always neat to see that thing sitting there and all dirty and with all the confetti on it. And I don't know, doing it the morning after was really neat in 2009 because all the crew guys could be there, the guys that worked on it and pushed it in there and did all that stuff. So that part of it was more cool than, that part of the experience. But yet it was pretty neat to come back a while after that and kind of relive that and kind of have that feeling when you saw the car again and kind of remember winning since it's been a couple months.
Right over here. Oh, I'm sorry, Seth. And then we'll go over here to Carlos.
Seth Livingstone, USA Today. Matt, I want to come back to the Roush Fenway success here. It's not just been you, but your teammates as well. What's the attitude like when you know you've got a track on the schedule coming up, and you guys are talking amongst yourselves, about a place where you've had this kind of history of success? I mean, how is the atmosphere leading up to a race like this different than a place where you go in and you've struggled?
Yeah, I mean it's. I don't know. It's kind of the same, but it's different. You want to your expectations are just higher, I guess, and the result has to be better to feel satisfied leaving a track that you feel like your organization is strong at. You really feel like you need to capitalize when you come to this track. You feel like yourself or your teammate or one of the team cars really needs to have a shot to win, and you should all be up running, right toward the front. Where maybe if you go to Martinsville, which historically isn't our best track, and we get 2 or 3 of them sprinkled in the top 10, we feel like that's a pretty good day for there, and maybe we're learning and gaining on it. When you come to these places, it feels like one of you should probably have a shot to win, or the boss will probably be disappointed on Monday morning.
Right here.
Hey Matt, you're a multiple time winner here. Denny is, Carl is, Tony is. You guys are all up there in the top 10, top 15. Do you think this race and November will have a chance to separate you guys, or is it going to stay packed like that?
Oh man, I don't know. It's hard for me to look forward to November. We've got so much racing to do right now. So I think when it comes to the whole season, obviously, if you run real good and you got a good performing team, and even if you get behind a little bit, you can probably have a few mulligans the way the chase is set up with the wins and all that stuff. But when it comes down to the chase, as we've seen pretty much year after year, you got to be pretty much spot on, I think, at all 10 of the tracks, and you can't really have many real bad finishes and expect to be a contender.
Let's go over here to Marty, and then we'll go to Bob, and then to Mike.
Marty Smith, ESPN. Matt, you've been good buddies with Dale Earnhardt Jr. for a really long time, so you've seen when he was super confident and maybe not so confident. How would you gauge that confidence right now, and is it any higher than maybe it's been, and if so, why?
I don't know. For whatever reason this year, I guess we probably spent more time talking to each other, around the races or sending each other texts or whatever. So that's been nice. I've probably seen him more this year than I've seen him in years past. Seen him on the racetrack a lot more too. He's been running really well, and there's been a few races we've ran pretty well, and we've got to race for position and stuff like that, which for me is always really fun. I mean, it's been a long time now, but we used to race for wins and trying to run with him for championships in the Busch Series and stuff, and moved up the Cup the same year and raced for Rookie of the Year and for wins and stuff, and then it's so competitive in this series that sometimes you might go honestly a couple months without really racing each other. So it's been enjoyable to be around him on the track more. I think he's obviously the better you run, I think everybody gains confidence.
Bob, right here.
Bob Hawkers, the Sporting News. From the test at Michigan, how fast do you think you'll be going in actual race trim? And I mean, are speeds going to be? I mean, are you going to be going too fast? Will they have to do something to the cars?
Well, I don't think we're going too fast as far as the cars being out of control or not having a good race or anything like that. And I don't really know the magic number on the speed. I know that there is a point where they worry about the cars, flipping over when they get turned sideways, and they obviously need to keep either slower than that or figure out something to do to the car to keep them on the ground if they get out of shape. I think that's probably the biggest concern. If something happens, toward the end of the straightaway on corner entry or something that, none of the cars go flying up in the air, I think is a little bit of a concern. But other than that, I don't think it's a big concern. They're just big numbers, and you probably wouldn't realize you're going quite that fast if you didn't have all the telemetry on the car. And it's just, it's about like what we expected. Just a ton of grip. We've been getting faster at all the tracks, I think, over the last year or two, trying to make the cars better and all that stuff. And the track's just got a ton of grip, and it's real fast. As far as speeds, I don't know why it would be any slower than what we just ran. I would assume it would get a little bit faster, as the track would get more dusted off, more rubbered in, get to work on your cars a little bit more, and all that should pick up probably a little bit. So when we were in race trim, we were almost 4 seconds faster than what we were racing last year. That's quite a bit.
Who's got one? Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Mike Muller.net. Following up on that whole thing and looking at Pocono in turn one, and I still think of Senior when he crashed down there, and I guess Rusty flipped, and a lot of people crashed down there. It's a bad turn. And I assume because the straightaway is longer, it'll be faster going into that turn, 135 degrees to the left. You guys keep talking about speed like it's not a big thing, and maybe that's a macho thing, but for about 20 years, I've been asking, why are we going so fast? Because the faster you go, the smaller the track is, the harder it is to put on good racing. And 215, 216, don't you guys ever sit back and say, well, if we were going 195 miles an hour, which is still pretty fast, we'd be putting on better racing at some of these tracks?
Well, I mean, every track is different. I mean, obviously, the bigger the track is, the faster our cars are going to go. I mean, do I think we need to be running 215 and put on good racing? No. But a track like Michigan, when it's real wide, and if the whole track does get dusted off and there's multiple grooves, I think the racing, will be good. Pocono, I mean, I've said it for years, is probably if I was repaving the thing, I would have cut all the straightaways or cut the front stretch in half and just made the track and made it a mile and a quarter or a mile and a half. Because it'd be a really fun track. It's really unique and everything. But do we need a straightaway that long in this day and age with engineering and horsepower and aerodynamics and all the stuff we have? To run 220 going into that corner or 210 going into that corner. I mean, that does. When you just think about the number, or you think about if something goes wrong, that is silly fast. We probably don't need to go that fast to put on a good race, but I don't know what the alternative is or how you slow it down and do any of that really.
Can I follow up on that? This track hasn't been repaved in 10 years. If they repave this track, you're going to have long stretches of green on Sunday or Saturday night whenever the race is on. If they repave this track, what would you see?
I can't really predict what's exactly going to happen if they repave the track, but I think Charlotte, since they repaved it, hasn't really changed much at all. I think it'd be probably pretty similar to what Charlotte was after the repave.
Right over here, go ahead.
Hi, Matt. Todd Anderson, ESPN. Night race Saturday. What challenges do you face racing under the lights, and what do you enjoy about it?
I don't know what specific challenges you have different than during the day. I think that day racing is always a little bit more challenging just because of vision, the track changing with the sun and the clouds, and the time of day and where the sun is setting and all that. So I think there's more challenges during a day race as far as keeping up with your setup and the track changing, that type of thing. But I like night racing. I think it's fun, especially here. I think that it looks faster. It sometimes looks more exciting. You see the sparks flying. You see all that kind of stuff. So I don't know when their latest practice session is, but the biggest challenge we usually face with night races with all these schedules is we don't really practice in the conditions that we race in. So that's probably the biggest challenge.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry Fraley, Dallas Morning News. Matt, this is the real windy time of year here. What effect, if any, does that have upon the competition?
Well, it's the same for everybody, but the wind actually does affect you here a fair amount, depending which direction it's blowing and how hard. So the entries and exits to this track, especially in 3 and 4, well, actually both ends, but it seems like 1 and 2 has more banking or it's a little faster. But it's really flat on entry and exit, so you got to really be careful on the exit to 2, depending on which way the wind is blowing, and the entry to 3 seems like the two trickiest spots.
Go ahead.
Matt, Carlos Mendez, Star Telegram. Because you're so good here, among other tracks, do you believe you can't afford to leave here without a good high finish?
Well, I don't know if I'd put it exactly that way. I mean, you want to, you want to try to overachieve every week, and you want to try to, take whatever you're given and get at least the finish where your car performed or hopefully better. That's what helps you in the end of the day with point standings and all that stuff, I guess. So I guess kind of like I touched on earlier, when you go to a place like maybe Martinsville, where I feel like it's one of my worst tracks, and we finish in the top 10 or get a top 5, we feel almost like that's a win. But when you go to one of your places where the organization and where you've had success and everything, and you left here and maybe ran 8th, you might feel a little defeated, where last week we probably would have felt really good about it. So I think it just changes your expectations, I think, a little bit, and what you're satisfied with and what you're not satisfied with.
Go ahead, Seth.
Seth Livingstone, USA Today. Matt, racing returns to Rockingham this weekend. You won there in 2004. Just wondering if you could have your recollections on that place and what you think it means for the sport to be going back there.
Yeah, I mean, I've always really liked the track as far as just racing on. I mean, that was one when we left that I understood all the reasons for it, and I still understand all the reasons for it. And I always thought it'd be cool. Too bad you couldn't pick that track up and put it, wherever you get more fans to show up and watch it, so we could keep racing at that track or a track like that. So I think it's exciting that they're going back there. I mean, who knows what it'll turn into, or if it'll grow and it'll be permanent, or what it'll turn into. But I think it's neat. It's going back there. It's been a really special track for me through the years. We won our first NASCAR race ever there. Won the Busch Series race there in '98, which was probably one of the most thrilling days of my racing life anyway. So that was neat. We wrapped up the championship there in 2003, and then we won the last race there. So we had a lot of really neat stuff happen there, and I really always enjoyed the track and the challenges that it presents.